love with Him. And that reconciliation means that when I started understanding who He is, then I will be reconciled to Him.
So, do you believe that Jesus Christ is the incarnation of God, or the Son of God, or a person? Like, is there a Trinity in your belief?
Let's say yes, but I'm very careful with this whole Trinitarian belief too. Let's say that a father and a son can know his father, right? But can a son know the father right to the inner core of who the father is as a father's son? Can they? What do you think? Go ahead, good. What do you think? You don't think so, right?
No.
Why? Good.
They're
What?
different people.
Pardon?
Well, they're two different people, so.
Anybody else?
To what extent?
It doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter how close a relationship you have between a father and son. Can you completely and utterly and ultimate sense know the depth of who your father is? You cannot. Why? Because you are still two different individuals. The only way you can know exactly what your father is like, if you weren't born the normal way, but you came out directly from his own DNA. When I say his own DNA, I mean completely and totally one with him.
But that's what Jesus said, right? I and the Father are one.
Yes, that's what he meant. I believe that's what he meant. That he and the Father are completely and totally one. Because if he was not completely and totally one, then he could not have given that revelation of God.
Well, that's why the Trinity makes you nervous, because
Yes.
it's not.
So he's like an incarnation of God more than.
So he is the Father. He is like I don't know. He's demonstrating what God is like
Yes.
by totally sacrificing himself
Yes.
on the cross and
Yes.
saying, I love you so much.
This is how much the Father loves us.
Okay, that makes sense to me. That makes sense.
See? This is how much the Father loves us.
So incarnation isn't really it's like he's just a pure expression of
God.
of Godness, like
Yes.
what God is, essential, God's
Yes.
essence.
Yes,
Like here is this. You want to know what God is like in human terms? This is it.
exactly.
So he's showing that to us
Yes.
in this way.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that is, again, for me, that is a very important understanding. Because then we can know exactly what God is like. See, all the religions of the world, if you go back and look at every other religion, forget just the Christian religion, you look at every belief system in the world, whatever that may be involved, you will find in every belief system that they are praying and asking God to help them or to do this, that, and the other for them. What the Bible teaches, and Jesus said, he said it, I will not pray the Father for you, because the Father himself already loves you. Well, if somebody already loves you and is there for you, why do you have to pray with him? Why do you have to ask him for things when he already knows you and knows what you need? Why? What do you think? And there, no question, the Bible does teach that we have to pray and ask. But why? Anybody? Why do you think you have to pray and ask? Now, I might end up going in a domain that might be totally out of it for you, wherever your minds are coming from. But why would you think he would want us to pray? If he's already loves us, he already knows us.
Like to show your commitment.
Can you speak a bit loud? I'll tell you what, I have a bit of a hearing problem.
To show your commitment to God.
To show your commitment.
Okay, to show your commitment to God, good.
So we can build a relationship with God to let him know that we love him back.
Okay, we can build a relationship with God.
So just to talk to him because I feel like you're really in love with, like really love someone, like a really close family member who's always there for you, and you just never talk to them ever. Like, how are they going to know what you want?
The three of you have come up with it and put it together. That's exactly what it is. And there's another being in the universe that does not want us to have that kind of a relationship with him. So that we don't have this prayer life with him. And that being is a so-called antagonist or an adversary or somebody that is against God. And he wants in every way to teach us the wrong thing about God. So the prayer is sometimes the adversary might be standing there and saying, no, I don't want you to do this for Sam. You cannot. Sam does things that I like. So you cannot be taking care of Sam the way Sam wants. Sam is my possession because Sam is doing what I want. And then you start praying for Sam. And when you start praying for Sam, this so-called accuser now has to back off. Why? Because you have cut in and said, look, we are praying for him. And as you are praying for him, according to the so-called agreement that has already been in place, I, as an antagonist, have to back off. That, I believe, is another very important aspect in this whole understanding. So the foundational belief within the so-called Seventh-day Adventist movement, one, this is the only thing that is totally different to all other belief systems in the world. There's a lot of Christians believe exactly the same as Adventists do. There are some Christians that worship on the Sabbath, which is the biblical Sabbath according to what Adventists understand is Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Yes. But you have other Christians also who worship on Saturday. So you've got pretty well everything that the Seventh-day Adventist Church believes in, you will find this in other Christian religions also, except for one. There's only one thing that has set them completely differently to the rest of the Christians. This is the only doctrine that they have that is not in any other Christian belief system. And that doctrine is exactly what I just discussed with you when we started, when it says, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. And that 2,300 days from Adventist understanding means not literal days. The Bible gives that those are prophetic times, and that prophetic time does not apply to literal days, but to 2,300 years. So it's for 2,300 years, from a certain time period, this erroneous view of God was prevailing. And from a certain time, this erroneous view of God has to be so-called cleansed from our minds. That is the unique doctrine of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And I'd rather call it a movement. But that, again, that doctrine, the way the Seventh-day Adventists promote it, is not in agreement with the way I perceive that. The way I see that is exactly the way I have described it to you. The Seventh-day Adventist Church looks at it in a totally different way.
They would say that there's a cleansing of some sort of invisible heavenly temple that took place, right, in October of 1844.
Yes, what they are saying is that the cleansing is to happen within us in this sense, that we are going to stop sinning, and that the cleansing happens, that God is keeping a record of all of our sins.
And they were all cleansed out.
And this cleansing process has been going on since October 22nd, 1844. Okay?
That's their interpretation after the Great Disappointment. when
Yes.
They were like, oh, it's not Jesus coming back, it's something else.
Yes. And to me, that is not how I perceive that. I believe that what that means is that this whole cleansing does not, yes, it's our hearts being cleansed, our minds being cleansed of what God is like. So when that cleansing happens, let's say I'm going to try and explain it this way. If I have some wrong view of God and say God is in heaven, and let's say wherever his throne room is, so God has a throne room, and let's say in his throne room is what we might call the Holy of Holies. So God is in this throne room, and I want you to try and figure this out with me, okay? So let's say I, as an individual, have some wrong view of God. And he's up there in the throne room, I'm here on earth, and I have this wrong view of God. What is happening up there in the throne room?
You don't know, because you have the wrong view.
Yes, but so if I have a wrong view of him, and he's up there in the throne room, then what do you think I am doing to him in the throne room?
He's not in the
You're slandering him. You're saying all
Yes.
kinds of stuff that's not true.
Yes. See, what I'm doing in a way, I'm contaminating his character. Even though you cannot literally contaminate it, but because
You're
of what,
contaminating people's thoughts
Yes.
about him.
see, so all this wrong view I have of him, in a way, I am putting a spot on him. I'm putting
No, it makes total sense.
some kind of, what's the word?
Yeah, it's like you're libel, slander.
Defamation.
Defamation of character.
See,
Can I
I'm
open
defaming his character.
Can I ask if they have questions about
Yes,
stuff?
go,
Do you guys have questions about, because we only got
Go ahead.
1 minute.
Wait, so if you're on the earth and you're slandering him, I was a little confused at the wording. He really is in the throne room, and your belief of him is that it has nothing to do with the throne room, right?
it's the what?
I was a little confused on what was in your example, what was the thing you were slandering him?
With all my wrong views of him.
Like that he's hateful and,
Yes, yes.
okay.
So if I have that wrong view of him, then what I'm doing is in a way I am slandering his character and his name.
Okay.
So when my mind is cleansed, when I personally no longer believe that, then I am no longer doing that to him.